Today I'm going to talk to you about my first year at Imperial studying biochemistry. I thought this year I was going to vlog and make content about my time at Imperial, but in all that time I only showed you guys my moving in day. So I'm going to use this video as an opportunity to kind of summarize and tell you everything that's happened during the year that would be relevant to a new student coming in this next academic year or whenever you're coming into Imperial. I'm going to cover 4 main sections that were guided by the questions I had before I joined Imperial or at the very start. And those are, should I live in accommodation or should I stay at home? This will only really be relevant for UK students that live not too far from school. The structure of the year, that's something that I was quite confused about at the beginning. Of course, they tell you in all your lectures, they do introductions, things like that, but you've got so much information thrown at you, a new environment, you're very distracted also if you want to socialize and things like that during Freshers Week, so you're not really concentrated on your year's structure. Third section is going to be how to keep up, just some tips on how to keep up. And finally, socializing, because I know there's a huge stereotype about the social life of Imperial students, and yeah, it's not always true. I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. So, should you live in or should you stay at home if you have the option to stay at home? When I was deciding, my family was like, you should live at school the first year so you have more of a chance of meeting new people. If you have like gatherings at some society and it's late, at least you're not too far from home. You won't be tired the next day for lectures or anything. It's a really big bonus when you live so close. 9 a.m. lectures, you can get up at 8:45, get dressed and go. Eat, if you eat breakfast, and go. So living in this year has been great in terms of if I forgot something in my room, if during lunchtime I just wanted a break from just the campus, I could just go back to my dorm. If you prefer using your toilet, like if you're someone that doesn't like using public toilets, having a room, let me tell you, having a room next to school when you get into those situations, top notch. Now, obviously, rent in London is quite pricey, so living in or staying at home could be dictated by how much maintenance loan you get if you're a UK student, or how much you're willing to put into rent, because keep in mind you'll have to pay for your laundry because you have to pay the company that runs the laundry rooms, your food, your transport, because there are some accommodations that aren't walking distance, they're not across the road. You have to get the tube for like half an hour, 20 minutes. So you have to count that into your expenses. And obviously, if you go out with friends, if you want to buy something, yeah, it's going to have to be a part of your budget. So things to keep in mind if you're looking to live in accommodation. It really makes your life easier in first year, especially when everything is so new. I'd say live in first year and then go back home if you can, second and third year. That's what I'm going to do. The good thing with living out of accommodation at home with your family is that you don't pay rent, food is taken care of, you get to save a lot of money. It's just the distance thing, and yeah, it just requires a level of organization. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to get into the structure of the course for the first year at least, which we've been told by professors is going to be the same second year. Third year might be a bit special. Oh yes, and just to say that this course is 3 years. Unless you decide to do a placement year in industry, then it's going to be 4 years for you. Really, it's a choice that you get in first year. I'm just going to do the 3-year course and then take a big fat break from school. Just a year, but I'm going to take a gap year after this. But yeah, with first year in mind, I'm going to tell you the structure. So in total, in biochemistry for the first year, you have 4 modules. 4 modules that you need to pass to be able to move on to second year. The way you pass the modules is a combination of exams and coursework. If you were to fail one of the exams for the modules, the coursework can still save you. But if you pass the exam and you do not so well in your coursework, it's okay because you've passed the module. So just focus on passing your modules, preferably through your exams, so you know you're good for the next year. The 4 modules we had this year, I don't know if they'll change it, maybe not for future years, but the 4 modules we had this year were cell biology, biological chemistry, enzymes and metabolism, and molecular biology. We start school in October, Freshers Week, lots of activities. Another thing with living in accommodation is you have the opportunity to attend a lot more Freshers events because they're catered to your accommodations, to bonding with people that live in neighboring accommodations. So that's another plus. Living in during first year, you'll really have much more opportunity to socialize. So yeah, Freshers Week, all of that. There might be a lot of people coughing and sneezing in your lecture halls during the first 2 months of school because they just party all night, come back late, don't sleep well. Yeah. So from October to December, you're studying the content for 2 modules, which this past year, for my year, was cell biology and biological chemistry, which really is just the basics. It's like A levels on steroids. It's like a level, it's slightly more information. And when I talk about biological chemistry or even biochemistry, what we study is the chemistry that happens within us, within living organisms, not so much the chemistry, like inorganic chemistry. That's not really what we look at. Everything that goes on in a living organism, biological system, that's what we study. That's the chemistry we study. If you're someone that really likes to work with inorganic compounds, learn about them, then chemistry is a better course, just pure chemistry. But in biochem, we really focus on biological systems, the chemistry within them. So anyway, from October to December, you're studying 2 modules. Some people have exams, those crucial exams, in December before the Christmas break, but we had those exams in January after the Christmas break. There was 1 exam for each module, which lasted 2 hours. If you fail both exams or one of the exams, your coursework can still save you. You can still pass the module if your coursework is good enough and you've built up a good enough percentage to get you past the pass mark. Major tip would be just pass those exams so you know you've passed a module, no stress. But in case you leave that exam feeling a bit, make sure you do well on your coursework. And during this period of time, October to December, really the start of first year, you get introduced to things in the labs. So we do lab work, but it's more introductory. Like they'll teach us how to use the pipettes and things like that, equipment that we just haven't had access to in 6th form, in secondary. From January to March, after we've done those 2 modules, we do and study the content for the 2 other modules of the year, enzymes and metabolism and molecular biology. We study the content, we have lectures, we have labs and stuff. And let me mention that lab work, usually after you've done a lab, you'll have a write-up, and the write-ups are your coursework. You might have essays and things like that as well, but the lab work write-ups are the main pieces of coursework. I'll talk a bit about coursework after I've shown you the structure of the year. So from January to March, you're studying 2 new modules. Then we have a big fat break in April. We have a whole month off. Not really off, because during this time, you're going to be studying for your exams in May. The exams for the 2 modules. So when we come back in May, we have a paper for enzymes and metabolism, and we have a paper for molecular biology, both 2 hours. And if you pass them, you pass the module. If you fail them, hopefully your coursework saves you. If not, there are retakes in August. Anyway, now you've done your exams in May and you're probably wondering, why are we still at uni? Yeah, a lot of us were wondering the same thing, because a lot of unis break up in like June, a lot earlier than us. We keep going until July. I literally finished last week. Wait, No, I finished this week. Yeah, Imperial runs a bit later. But anyway, during the summer term, after you've done your May exams, it's basically all lab work. We do things like bioinformatics, which is more computer work and stuff, but we do a lot of lab work for each module. So really, you won't know if you've passed your modules until July, because the coursework that you do during the summer term, all the lab work and the write-ups that follow, that coursework is going to be part of your final grade for the modules. So you won't really know if you've passed the module until July-ish time. So another tip would be that if you feel like you failed an exam, start revising for the retakes in August as soon as possible. And really, if you don't feel comfortable in a module or in some content, you should be going over it anyway, because second year is just going to build up on that content. So you'd want to make sure if you've not done so well this year, it doesn't drag out into the following years. So in summary, from October to December, you're studying 2 modules, all whilst getting introduced to lab work. Then you have the Christmas holidays, and when you come back in January, you sit exams for the 2 modules that you studied. And then during January to March, you have 2 new modules to learn the content for before the Easter break in April, where you have a whole month off. You can use it to revise for your exams and also relax. When you come back in May, you have exams for the modules that you studied in the spring. And after you're done your exams, you have the summer term, where you do mostly summer projects, write-ups, and things like that. For example, the summer projects this year, one of them was to sequence our own DNA using cheek cells. Another one was to separate chicken egg white proteins, and we got to crystallize lysozyme and use a software called PyMol to analyze its structure and do a write-up on it. So a little bit about coursework. These are the lab books that we got at the beginning of the year when we started doing lab work. You're meant to record all your data in this, date it and things like that, which I did and most of us did at the beginning of the year. You learn how to use Excel like you've never learned it before. You learn how to use PowerPoint in ways you didn't know it could be used. So all your data goes there anyway, which is why sometimes I just jot it down on a piece of paper. The coursework is mostly made up of write-ups. For our write-ups, we mostly used PowerPoint to display, like to have the final product, which I found really interesting because I thought we'd use Word. But no, there are tools on PowerPoint that you just can't find on Word. And so yeah, that's a bit about coursework. Let me know if you have any questions. I feel like biochemistry is not as demanding as the other courses at Imperial. We have nowhere near as much exams. A lot of the like coding, maths, some online exams that we might have had were all open book. So I think there's a lot of room to succeed in this course. You just have to be consistent and work well. And here I'm speaking to myself. Consistency is key and something I'm still working on. And in no way, shape or form am I saying that this course is easy. It is not. I'm just saying we don't have as many exams as some other courses throughout the year, at least in the first year. Like if you speak to engineering students in general, or medicine students, we have nowhere near as many exams as them. But that doesn't mean that when we do have assessments, they're not hard or anything. They are, like you need to work. So this now leads into tips on how to keep up. But definitely one tip would be to make sure that if you leave a lecture, or if you didn't go to that lecture and you rewatched it online later, make sure that you really understood what was being taught. Go and read up on anything, research concepts you didn't understand. Don't leave the contents of a lecture not fully understood, because it's just gonna pile up. And trust me, you will not have the time to go over it. You will not have the time to go over it without feeling stressed, without feeling like, oh, why didn't I do this at another time? Why did I let it pile up so much? Every day you have a few lectures. Just spend a few, like just 2 or 3 additional hours every day, just making sure that you understand what you were meant to understand on that day. Obviously, you might not understand 100%, but as long as you've tried to, the dots will connect. Also, one thing is going over your content, but making sure that your notes are good enough for you to use come revision time. Come revision time, you will not have time to remake your notes. You will not have time. Sometimes we'll have quizzes and they'll be formative. So formative means that it doesn't count towards your final grade. Summative assessments do. Sometimes you'll have quizzes which are formative just to see and assess your level of understanding. So if every day after your lectures, you've been consistent, you've made your notes, you've worked to understand, then those formative quizzes are going to be very helpful for you because they're going to highlight the areas you need to go over. If you just haven't revised anything, you're leaving it to closer to the exam dates, the exam week or whatever, they're not going to be useful to you at all. And it's kind of depressing to be doing a quiz and feel like, oh, I don't know any of this, when half the lecture hall knows exactly what to answer. So just don't be that person for yourself. You're not doing this for anyone else. You're taking this course for yourself. So make sure that you stay on top of things for yourself. And talk to other people. Don't be shy. Ask questions. We have a group chat where practically everyone that's in our course is on that group chat. And no question is silly. Honestly, no question is silly. Just ask. This year there was like 170 of us or something. So there's a lot of people. One person must know how to help you. And one of the main things they said when we started was the importance of working together as scientists. It's not just an individual thing. So yeah, get past that fear of judgment because you're here to learn. If you knew everything, first of all, the learning process wouldn't be interesting. And like, what are you doing here if you're not here to learn? So don't be shy. Ask questions. Not only to your peers, but older years. They might have a lot of that on their plates, but I'm sure they'd be happy to help. If you want to get in touch with me, DM me on Instagram and yeah, we can get talking. But yeah, that would be my main tips to keeping up with the workload. Finally, socializing. There's a big misconception that Imperial students cannot socialize, that our social lives are non-existent, that all we do is revise. That's not true. Yes, there's a certain importance to revising in our education. I think people's ideas of fun differ. During Freshers Week, I went clubbing and, to all the social events that the uni organized, things like that. In all fairness, I'm not really a fan of clubbing. I only did it to meet new people, and why not to say that I've done it. Now I've had my dose of clubbing. Honestly, it's not my scene, but it was fun while it lasted. But there are just so many societies at this school. It's impossible for you to be bored. It's impossible for you to be alone unless you let yourself be. Honestly, your social life is really going to depend on how you want it to be. You have to get yourself out there, be willing to meet new people if you want a fun social life. So I was in Falmouth and Keogh, the accommodation, south side, which is literally just 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, 3 minutes walk from campus. There's a gym. They have amazing prices. It's like £40 a year for pretty much all the activities available there. They have a gym membership that's also like £35 a year. There's Hyde Park. There are restaurants around. You can get a waitressing job. I worked at Carluccio's for a few months. It was an interesting experience. But yeah, there's just so much to do. And when you go to these clubs, you meet students of all ages doing all types of courses. And it's just really great to meet that many people. Yeah, even when we're revising, a lot of the time we'll revise together. So if you're on accommodation, you maybe meet in the common room, you just do your thing and then you play pool, or you go out and have dinner, then you come back and revise together. The group revision is mostly chatting, but revision does get done. But yeah, my thing with socializing, your social life is going to be what you make it. I'm not going to lie, the first few months, I really got myself out there, things like that. And it's really easy to get distracted from what you came here to do. And so the first 2 modules weren't too great, but Now I'm focused. I'm so glad that that's happened in the first year so that it doesn't happen again in second and third year. Have fun, but stay focused. Honestly, stay focused. Some lessons are best learned the hard way, but if I can tell you anything, just try to stay focused. Biochemistry is a great course overall. I enjoy it. But yeah, I think I've covered pretty much everything I would have wanted to know before I started at Imperial. But if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to do a Q&A video and a part 2 to this. So let me know in the comment section below. And if you're coming to Imperial next year, let me know in the comments or send me a DM. I'd love to meet you guys. Ciao.